Welcome to Crimson Moon Stories, the home of original full-length werewolf romance stories. Don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy my stories. Now the story begins. Moonlight dripped like silver oil over the pine-cloaked hills, glinting on Mira's dagger as she tightened the strap of her leather bracer. Her pulse drummed a steady rhythm of duty and dread. The council fire still burned behind her, crackling with the restless whispers of her Alpha, Cade, and his war council. Mira had been summoned moments ago, handed the task that could tilt the war. "You know what must be done," Alpha Cade had said, his voice low and heavy with promise and threat. His eyes, pale and cold, barely looked at her face. "Gain his trust, his plans, his bed if you must. Bring us what we need to end Ronin's reign." Mira had met his gaze with steady defiance, though her heart squeezed painfully. She knew what her Alpha demanded, what this would cost her. Seduce Alpha Ronin, betray him, deliver the secrets that would see his warriors buried, and if she failed, she would not live long enough to regret it. As dawn approached, Mira mounted her mare, whispering soft words to calm the restless creature. The trail to the Black Pine Packs, territory twisted through mountain passes and dense forests, places where even wolves vanished without trace. But Mira was not only a wolf, she was a spy born of shadows, taught to slip unseen and to lie with a sweet tongue. "Get in, get out, do not lose yourself." Her Alpha's words haunted her as she rode beneath the dying stars. By dusk, Mira stood before the gates of Ronin's fortress. Black-timbered walls, watchtowers sharp as spears, and sentries whose eyes followed her like hawks. She had adopted a new name, Leona, a travelling merchant's daughter, and crafted a story of flight from raiders. She wore a cloak that softened her scent, a potion brewed by Cade's seer. Inside the fortress, the hall throbbed with the smell of roasted meat and fresh blood from the training yard. Warriors laughed, ale foamed in mugs, and firelight danced along the walls. And at the far end of the hall, Alpha Ronin sat on a broad chair of dark oak, head turned toward her as if he had scented her from the moment she crossed the threshold. Ronin was nothing like the stories. The tales spoke of a monster, but Mira saw a man forged from winter and war, black hair swept back from a high forehead, a beard shadowing his jaw, eyes like cold iron. His shoulders were broad, posture loose yet coiled, as if every muscle lay, waiting for violence. When she approached, he didn't rise. His gaze, sharp and assessing, slid over her. "You're far from home, aren't you?" "My lord," she answered, voice steady. "Bandits burned my caravan. I seek shelter only until the roads are safe. And what do you offer for my hospitality?" Ronin's voice was low, dangerous, though amusement touched the corner of his mouth. "Nothing but my gratitude, Alpha." "Gratitude rarely keeps wolves fed," he murmured. "Come closer." Mira hesitated, then stepped into the pool of firelight at his feet. Their eyes locked, and for a heartbeat, something primal trembled between them, a whisper of recognition that Mira crushed down. She could not afford to feel it. "Stay," Ronin said finally. "We'll see if your gratitude proves interesting." Days turned into a cautious dance. Mira watched Ronin command his pack. Brutal, but fair. Quick to anger, yet never reckless. His warriors respected him with the fierce loyalty born of fear and love. In the evenings, they would speak by the hearth. Mira shared half-truths of her made-up life. Ronin, ever guarded, offered fragments of his own past. The war that made him Alpha, the betrayal that taught him caution. One night, Mira found herself laughing at his dry remark about drunken baiters. His answering smile, quick, genuine, struck deeper than any blade. Later, alone in her room, she cursed herself, foolish heart. The next morning, Ronin's suspicions surfaced like a wolf's head above water. "Leona!" he called, voice like iron dragging across stone. "Where did you say your caravan hailed from?" Mira's heart stumbled. "From the east, near the Ashridge border." "Strange," he said quietly. No word reached us of a burned caravan, and our scouts see much. Her tongue felt thick. Perhaps they missed it, or perhaps no one survived to speak. Ronin stared at her, something dark moving behind his eyes. Then he turned away. Perhaps, he agreed. For now, stay. My curiosity is not yet satisfied. Mira's orders still burned at the back of her mind. Seduce him. Gain his trust. Find the war plans. That night, she let down her hair, the silver pins catching torchlight. She wore a simple gown, its neckline softer than propriety demanded. Her pulse raced, skin prickling with shame and determination. Ronin entered her chamber without knocking, as if summoned by her thoughts. His gaze drifted over her form, then rose to meet her eyes. "You're playing a dangerous game," he said softly. "So are you," she whispered. A beat of silence stretched, hot and electric. Then Ronin stepped closer, close enough she could, taste the warmth of his breath. "Tell me who you truly are," he murmured. She lifted trembling hands to his chest. "Does it matter?" Ronin's answer was a kiss, hard, hungry, breaking something inside her. Mira's knees nearly buckled as his hands slid to her waist, pulling her against iron muscle. Her fingers found the scars hidden beneath his shirt. He shivered, not from cold. They stumbled to the bed, lips and breath mingling, firelight dancing across skin and shadow. For a moment, Mira forgot her alpha, forgot her orders. There was only Ronin's warmth, his strength, the wild beat of something older than hatred. In the quiet after, Ronin slept beside her, breath deep and even. Mira lay awake, guilt gnawing at her ribs. This was the moment. Silently, she slipped from the bed. By the hearth on a low table lay a leather folder sealed with wax. Ronin's scent clung to it. Her hands shook as she broke the seal, scanning pages that named supply routes, hidden outposts, and strategies for an offensive in the coming moons. "This is what I came for." She memorized the details, every map and mark, then replaced the folder, careful to hide her trail. As she turned, Ronin's eyes opened, wolf sharp, catching her in frozen terror. "What are you doing?" His voice, raw from sleep, cut through the dark. "I couldn't sleep," she whispered, chest tightening. "I went to stir the fire." For a breath, Ronin only watched her. The bond between them coiled tight, humming with suspicion. Then he exhaled, eyes softening. "Come back to bed." She did, curling against his warmth, her heart heavy with betrayal. She told herself this was duty. But when his hand settled warmly on her waist, Mira swallowed the guilt that burned her throat. "Forgive me." Dawn spilled pale light across the bed, painting Mira's skin gold. Ronin lay beside her, dark hair mussed, a rare softness on his harsh face. She should have risen and slipped away, but her body refused to move. Instead, she watched the slow rise and fall of his chest, each breath stirring something raw in her. Then it happened, like a flame catching dry wood, a pulse deep in her core, a tug that felt older than bone or blood. Her wolf stirred awake, recognizing what her mind dared not. Ronin opened his eyes. "You feel it too," he murmured, voice rough with sleep. Mira swallowed, her heart hammering so hard it hurt. "Feel what?" "The bond," Ronin said quietly, as if testing the word, on his tongue. "You're mine, and I'm yours." Her throat closed around 1,000 lies. "You're mistaken," she whispered. His hand cupped her cheek, thumb tracing the trembling corner of her mouth. "Am I?" For an instant, she saw something unguarded in his eyes, something she had never seen in any alpha. It terrified her. Mira pulled back, breath ragged. "I need air." Ronin watched her, silent, as she rose and fled the room, cloak wrapped tight around her shoulders. Outside, the morning chill cut through her, but it could not smother the heat coiling low in her. "Belly, don't do this," she begged herself. Don't let it be real. But it was. And it was far too late. In the Great Hall, Mira found the usual early chaos. Warriors arguing over training drills, servants lighting fresh torches, the beta Marek barking orders. Marek's gaze found her, suspicion flickering across his scarred face. "Leona," he greeted, the name tasting bitter in his mouth. "Early walk?" "I couldn't sleep," Mira replied, forcing a calm she didn't feel. Marek stepped closer, voice dropping low. "The Alpha rarely shares his bed." "You must be special." Mira stiffened, but Marek only chuckled darkly. "Watch your step, girl. Loyalty means everything here." She forced a smile. "Thank you for the advice." Before Marek could press further, Ronin entered the hall. His gaze found Mira instantly, holding her with that iron weight. The entire hall seemed to quiet, warriors straightening, eyes flickering, between them. Ronin spoke without looking away from her. "Prepare the scouts. I want reports from the eastern ridge by nightfall." "Yes, Alpha," Marek answered, shooting Mira one last measuring look before leaving. Ronin crossed to her, stopping only when they stood close enough that she could feel his heat. "You ran," he said. "I needed to breathe," she replied, voice barely above a whisper. His jaw tightened. "And what did you decide while you were breathing?" "That this can't happen," she whispered. "It already has," Ronin murmured. His gaze softened, only for a heartbeat. "But I won't. Chain you, Mira." She flinched at her true name slipping past his lips, but he turned and left, his shoulders rigid, leaving her heart pounding with fear and something dangerously like longing. Later that day, Mira slipped beyond the walls to the old watchtower on the ridge, a place scouts rarely visited. She needed silence to think, to remember why she had come. She pressed a hand to her belly, the lie she carried burning hotter each day. A child, his child. The truth wrapped around her ribs like thorns, if Cade finds out. A twig snapped behind her, Mira spun, dagger drawn. But it was only Lysa, the healer's apprentice, her brown eyes wide. "I didn't mean to startle you," Lysa stammered. Mira lowered the dagger, exhaling shakily. "It's fine. What brings you here?" Lysa stepped closer, gaze flickering to Mira's waist. "You've been ill in the mornings, and your scent, it's changing." Mira's heart stopped. "You must be mistaken." "I know what it means," Lysa said softly. "You're pregnant." Mira closed her eyes, nausea rising. "You can't tell anyone." "Does the Alpha know?" "No." Mira shook her head, voice breaking. "And you mustn't speak of it. Please, Lysa." The girl hesitated, then nodded. "Your secret is safe with me." But as Lysa turned away, Mira saw fear in her eyes, a fear that mirrored her own. That night, guilt twisted so sharply that Mira could barely breathe. She gathered what little she had, her cloak, the hidden dagger, the map she had memorized from Ronin's war plans. Leave now, before the bond tightens more, before the child makes escape impossible. She slipped through the stables, saddled her mare by moonlight, and rode for the border. The forest swallowed her, shadows deep and shifting. But after an hour, the unmistakable sound of pursuit reached her ears. The heavy drum of paws on earth, wolves running fast. Panic surged. Mira urged her mare faster, heart thundering. Branches lashed her arms, sweat stinging her eyes. Suddenly, a dark shape lunged ahead, forcing her to rear back. Marek stood there, wolf eyes gleaming in the moonlight. "Going somewhere?" "Let me pass," Mira hissed, dagger raised. "Not without speaking to the Alpha," Marek growled, stepping closer. "I won't go back. You carry his child," Marek spat. "Did you truly think you could vanish?" Shock rippled through her, freezing her hand. "How do you know?" "Lysa told me," he said coldly. She had no choice. In that moment, the last thread of hope snapped. Mira dropped her dagger, shoulders sagging. "Then take me." Marek seized her reins, jaw tight. You should pray he still wants you, spy or not. They turned back toward day. The fortress, the road dark and silent except for Mira's ragged breathing. They brought Mira to the great hall, where torches burned low. Ronin stood waiting, arms crossed, his expression carved from stone. The moment his eyes found her belly, something flickered in his gaze. A raw, stunned pain that stole her breath. Marek spoke first. Alpha. She tried to flee, and she carries your child. Silence swallowed the hall. Even the guards seemed to hold their breath. Ronin stepped forward, every line of his body taut. Mira, tell me it isn't true. She lifted her chin, though her voice trembled. It's true. And that you're a spy? His voice cracked like a whip. Mira flinched. Yes, she whispered. I came to steal your secrets. And I did. Ronin's eyes closed, as if the words cut deeper than any blade. Why come to my bed? Because it was my mission, she whispered, shame burning her throat. And because I didn't mean to fall for you. Fall for me? His laugh was hollow, bitter. You shattered everything, Mira. She took a step forward, tears streaking her cheeks. The child, our child, was never part of the plan. Ronin turned away, shoulders shaking with barely contained rage. Marek, leave us! Marek hesitated, then departed, door closing behind him. For a long moment Ronin said nothing. Then quietly, he spoke. You carry my air. That alone keeps you breathing. I understand, she whispered. But do not mistake mercy for forgiveness, Ronin finished, his voice like cold iron. You will remain here, under watch, and when the child is born, we will decide what happens next. Mira's heart splintered under the weight of his words. The man she had betrayed still protected her, but the bond they shared now lay buried beneath betrayal and blood, and in the shadows she could almost hear the echo of the prophecy she dared not speak aloud. The fortress felt colder after Mira's confession, as though the very stones had turned against her. Guards shadowed her every step, and the air crackled with unspoken questions. Ronin barely spoke to her. When he did, his words were clipped, his voice carrying an edge that made even seasoned warriors flinch. One morning, Mira was escorted into the council chamber. Maps and battle plans lay scattered across the heavy oak table, and Ronin stood at its head, Marek and 2 other betas at his side. When she entered, Ronin didn't look at her immediately. He traced a scar on the table's surface, his expression carved from anger and restraint. You betrayed us, Ronin began, voice deceptively calm. Yet you carry my child. Explain why I should not have you executed. Mira swallowed hard, her voice dry as ash. Because killing me would kill your child too. One of the betas, Rurik, broad-shouldered and scarred, snorted. She plays on your mercy, Alpha. Ronin's gaze flickered to Rurik, sharp as a blade. Silence. Then back to Mira. You say you love me, yet you stole secrets that could destroy us. I never sent them, Mira whispered. I memorized your plans, but I couldn't bring myself to send them. Marek's brow furrowed. Do you expect us to believe that? I don't expect anything, she murmured, shoulders drooping. It's the truth. Ronin's stare pinned her. Then swear it by your wolf. Mira closed her eyes, summoning the aching part of herself that still felt the bond's pull. By my wolf and my blood, I swear I never delivered your secrets to my Alpha. For a moment, silence hung thick in the chamber. Then Ronin exhaled, a muscle ticking in his jaw. Leave us, he ordered his betas. When they were gone, he stepped closer. Why didn't you send them, Mira? Tell me the truth. Because I couldn't watch them destroy you, she whispered. Because, despite everything, I love you. His expression softened, just for a heartbeat. But then, the anger returned, dulled now by hurt. Love built on lies is still a lie, he said, voice low, and trust, once broken, isn't easily mended. I know, she whispered. Ronin turned away, shoulders stiff. Stay within the walls. Speak to no one unless I permit it. I must decide what to do with you. And with that, he left her alone in the silent hall, her heart heavy as stone. Days blurred into nights. Mira stayed mostly in her room, guarded by a silent warrior named Edric who rarely met her gaze. The child within her reminded her daily of her impossible position. Her loyalty to her birth pack had shattered, but here too, she was no longer trusted. One night, unable to sleep, she paced the small chamber. Her thoughts twisted into a single question: run or stay? If she fled, Ronin would hunt her down, and Cade would claim the child. If she stayed, she risked Ronin's wrath, or worse, that he'd take the child from her when it was born. A soft knock startled her. The door opened, and Lisa slipped in, carrying a bowl of steaming broth. You should eat, Lisa said gently. For the baby. Mira took the bowl, hands trembling. Thank you, Lisa. You didn't have to bring this yourself. Lisa hesitated. The Alpha still cares for you, even if he denies it. Mira's chest tightened. It doesn't matter anymore. I've ruined everything. Maybe not everything, Lisa murmured. The bond is still there. I can see it in his eyes. Tears pricked Mira's eyes. I don't deserve it. Perhaps, Lisa said softly. But the child deserves peace. You must decide where your loyalty truly lies. Lisa left her with that thought, and Mira sat awake until dawn, cradling her belly, whispering apologies to the life growing inside her. The next morning brought no comfort. Word spread through the fortress. A scout had caught sight of riders from Cade's pack on the eastern ridge. Tension rippled through every hall. Ronin called his betas to the courtyard. Mira, escorted by Edric, watched from a distance. His voice was calm, but beneath it lay a promise of blood. Marek, take 2 patrols. Rurik, double the western watch. No one crosses into our land without my leave. As warriors dispersed, Ronin's gaze landed on Mira. Without a word, he crossed to her, the air between them thick with everything unspoken. I won't let them take you, he said quietly. Even after what I did? She asked, voice cracking. You're carrying my air, he murmured, and I'm still your mate, whether either of us likes it. Before Mira could answer, a shout rang out from the gate. Riders, from the Ashridge border. Ronin's eyes narrowed. Stay behind me, he ordered, voice like steel. The riders entered the courtyard, 5 men clad in the dark leathers of Cade's pack, bearing his crest. Their leader, a lean man with cruel eyes, dismounted and looked directly at Mira. Alpha Ronin, he said, his tone mocking. Our Alpha demands the return of what is his. Ronin stepped forward, his presence filling the courtyard like a storm. She is not his, and she will not leave these walls. The envoy's gaze flickered to Mira's belly, lips curling into a smirk. You think you can keep what was promised? You forget the blood oath she made. Mira felt the air leave her lungs. Cade had forced her months ago to swear she'd return if called. Ronin's eyes never left the envoy. Leave now, or die here. The envoy spat on the ground. Then let blood speak. Without warning, his men reached for weapons. Ronin's warriors surged forward, steel flashing in the morning sun. Mira watched in horror as the courtyard exploded into violence. The clash ended quickly. Ronin's warriors, hardened by endless border skirmishes, cut down 3 of the riders before the others surrendered. Breathing hard, Ronin ordered the survivors dragged before him. His gaze was as cold as winter stone. Go back to Cade, he told the envoy, voice low and lethal. Tell him if he sets foot in my territory again, he will not leave it. And the woman, the envoy spat, blood dripping from his split lip. Ronin glanced at Mira, then back to the envoy. She stays here. And if he dares to come for her, he will find nothing but death. The envoy's gaze flickered with hate and something like fear, but he turned and left, his remaining rider limping after him. When the courtyard quieted, Ronin walked to Mira. His chest still rose and fell with the fury of battle. "You didn't tell me about the blood oath," he said, voice trembling with barely contained rage. "I thought it wouldn't matter if I never went back," she whispered. "You thought?" His voice cracked like thunder. "You risked everything. The oath binds you to Cade. If he summons you, you must go, or suffer the bond's torment until you die." Mira flinched. "I was trying to protect the baby. And you. And now, you've given him another weapon to use against us," Ronin growled. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Ronin's anger dimmed into something raw. "Why didn't you trust me?" "Because I thought you'd never forgive me," she whispered. Ronin's shoulders sagged. "I don't know if I can, but I can't let him take you." "And if he tries again?" she asked. "Then we fight," he said simply, "until one of us stands over the other's grave." That night, Mira couldn't sleep. The fortress felt haunted by the clash, the walls whispering threats in every shadow. She rose and found her way to Ronin's private chambers. A guard tried to stop her, but Ronin's voice called from within. "Let her pass." Inside, he stood, by the hearth, firelight painting his features in bronze and shadow. His eyes, when they met hers, were weary, more tired than she'd ever seen. "I need to tell you something," Mira said, voice trembling. "Then speak," Ronin answered, though his jaw tightened as if bracing for another betrayal. She stepped, closer, forcing herself to meet his gaze. "I never meant to fall in love with you. At first, it was only the mission, but then I felt the bond, and it terrified me. Because it meant I'd have to choose between Cade and you chose him," Ronin murmured. "I chose survival," she whispered, tears spilling. "But when I learned I was pregnant, I couldn't do it. I couldn't let Cade have your child." Ronin's expression cracked, pain flashing across his eyes. "Why didn't you come to me?" "Because I thought you'd hate me," she choked out. "And I was right." Ronin's hand clenched at his side. "You broke my trust, Mira. But I can't deny the bond, or the child." They stood in silence, the fire crackling between them. Finally, Ronin spoke, his voice softer. "You will stay, under guard, but you will stay in these rooms, from now on beside me. The pack must see us together. They must see that I claim you." "And what do you feel?" she whispered. His eyes met hers, the truth raw and dangerous. Anger, hurt, but also love. Damn me for it. But it's still there. A sob broke from Mira's chest. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Ronin stepped forward, close enough to touch. "Don't make me regret believing you again," he murmured. In that moment, something fragile began to mend between them. But both knew it would take more than words to heal what had been broken. And outside those walls, Cade waited, watching, plotting and ready to strike. Days passed under the fortress's watchful eyes. Mira stayed in Ronin's chambers, sharing the silence that settled heavy between them. Trust hung by a thread, fragile and fraying. One dawn, Ronin summoned her to the council chamber. Maps littered the table, and Marek stood beside him, arms crossed. "We have word," Ronin said, voice taut. "Cade's men are massing on the Ashridge border. He wants you back, Mira, and he means to take you by force." Fear curled cold in her belly. "Then what will you do?" Ronin's gaze was unreadable. "I'm going to the border. I'll speak with Cade face to face." Mira stepped forward, heart racing. "You can't trust him. He'll kill you." "Perhaps," Ronin answered. "But war would cost too many lives. If there's even a chance to stop it, I must try." "I'm coming with you," Mira said. "No," Ronin said, the word final. "If he sees you, he'll use the bond to force you across. You'll stay here, under Marek's guard. Mira's voice broke. Ronin, please, you can't face him alone. Ronin's gaze softened, just for a moment. I'm not alone. I have a pack, and I have something to fight for now. Before she could reply, he turned to Marek. Keep her safe. If Cade tries anything, you run. Do you hear me? Marek inclined his head, though his eyes flickered with worry. Aye, Alpha. That night, Mira lay awake, staring into the dark. Her child moved within her, a quiet reminder of everything at stake, and somewhere beyond the walls, Ronin rode into danger she had helped create. Ronin reached the border at dawn, mist clinging to the ground like ghostly fingers. Across the clearing stood Cade, flanked by his dark-clad warriors. Cade's eyes found Ronin, cold and calculating. You have something that belongs to me, he called out, voice echoing across the frost-bitten field. Ronin kept his posture loose but ready, his voice calm. Mira was never yours to claim. The bond chose otherwise. And yet, she swore an oath, Cade countered. Return her to me, or we settle this in blood. Ronin stepped forward, fury simmering beneath his words. You mean to drag her back and use the child as a weapon? I won't allow it. For a moment, Cade's mask slipped, revealing hatred sharp as a dagger. You think you love her? She was mine first, my spy, my tool, and tools don't get to choose their masters. Ronin's eyes narrowed. Perhaps that's why she chose me. A growl rippled through Cade's warriors, but Cade raised a hand, stopping them. So, it comes to this. Return the woman, and your pack lives. Refuse, and I burn your fortress to the ground. Ronin met his gaze without blinking. Then come and see what happens. The mist stirred between them, heavy with the promise of violence. But Cade turned away. Soon, Ronin, you cannot keep her forever. As Cade and his men vanished into the trees, Ronin felt the bond pulse painfully in his chest, whispering Mira's fear across the distance. He turned back toward his waiting scouts, jaw set. We prepare for war, he ordered, voice low, and we protect what is ours. Back at the fortress, Mira found herself summoned by Ilara, the pack's seer. The old woman's eyes were clouded, hair as white as snow, yet her presence was as sharp as a wolf's teeth. I've seen you in the flames, Ilara rasped, beckoning Mira closer. And the child you carry. Mira's breath caught. What did you see? A choice, Ilara murmured, fingers brushing over Mira's belly. Born of war, destined to unite or destroy. The child is more than blood. It is the fulcrum on which peace balances. Mira's knees weakened. What does that mean? Will my child live? Life is not the question, Ilara whispered. What matters is what the child becomes, and what you and Ronin choose when the moment comes. Tears blurred Mira's vision. I don't know if Ronin will ever trust me enough to choose the same path. Trust must be rebuilt stone by stone, Ilara said gently. The bond exists because there is something true between you, even buried under betrayal. Mira nodded, though fear gnawed at her. And if we fail, then the world burns, Ilara said simply. The seer turned away, leaving Mira staring at the dying embers, her heart a battlefield of hope and dread. Ronin returned at dusk, exhaustion shadowing his eyes. Mira waited for him in the chamber. They now shared, heart hammering. You're safe, she breathed. For now, Ronin answered, shrugging off his cloak. Cade means to attack. It's only a matter of time. Mira stepped closer. Ronin, Ilara spoke to me about the child, about what might come. His jaw tightened. And? She said the baby could unite our packs. Or destroy them, Mira whispered. It depends on us. Ronin met her gaze, something raw flickering there. Do you still want peace, Mira? Truly. I do, she said. More than anything. His hand lifted, hesitated, then settled against her cheek. Then we fight for it. Together. Even if you can't fully trust me? She asked. I can't forget what you did, Ronin admitted, voice low, but I can't forget why I love you either. Tears welled in her eyes, and for a moment, the walls between them cracked. They shared the same bed that night, but lay back to back, words unsaid pressing against silence. Yet as sleep claimed them, Mira felt his hand drift across the mattress, resting lightly against her hip, and her heart dared to hope. Morning brought fresh danger. Scouts returned with grim news. Cade's forces had moved closer, their numbers swelling with every dawn. Ronin gathered the council in the great hall. Mira stood beside him, eyes on the maps. Cade won't wait long, Marek growled. If we don't strike first, he'll siege us. Ronin shook his head. If we attack, we risk confirming every. Fear Cade's pack already whispers about us. We must force him to make the first move. And if he does? Marek pressed. Then we answer with everything we have, Ronin said coldly. As the council dispersed, a messenger ran in, breathless. Alpha, a rider from Cade's pack approaches, alone. Ronin's expression darkened. Bring him. Moments later, the envoy entered, young, nervous, and smelling of fear. He dropped to his knees. My Alpha sends terms, he rasped. Speak, Ronin commanded. Cade demands the woman returns within 3 days, the envoy stammered. If not, he will march and burn every den, every home. No mercy. Mira's breath caught. He won't stop until the child is his. Ronin's eyes locked with hers, iron resolve hardening. Then let him come. We won't yield. The envoy swallowed, fear clear on his face. There's more. Cade says, if you refuse, he'll tear the child from her womb himself. A low growl rumbled in Ronin's chest, dangerous and dark. Get out, he hissed. The envoy fled. When they were alone, Ronin's hands trembled with rage. He won't touch you, not while I breathe. Mira nodded, voice shaking. Then we fight. Ronin drew her close, pressing his forehead to hers. Yes, we fight. Together. Outside, the drums of war began to beat, slow and heavy as a coming storm. The fortress transformed overnight. Warriors trained in the courtyard until sweat ran like rivulets. Blacksmiths hammered steel into spearheads and arrow tips, and fletchers bound fresh arrows by the hundreds. The scent of oil, sweat, and burning pitch choked the summer air. Mira watched from the battlements, one hand on her swelling belly. Her presence drew both stares and silence, the mate of the Alpha, and the spy who had betrayed them. Marek joined, her, his broad shadow blocking part of the afternoon sun. You shouldn't be out here in your condition, he said roughly, though not unkindly. I need to see, Mira murmured. If Cade comes, I won't hide in the dark. Marek's gaze softened, scars shifting around his eyes. We fight for the pack, for Ronin, for your child too. But war changes everything, Mira. Even victory leaves scars. She nodded. I know. Below, Ronin walked among his warriors, voice low but steady, checking every post and every man. His presence wove iron into the air, the promise that even against impossible odds, he would not yield. Later, in their shared chambers, Ronin entered still wearing his cloak, dust and sweat streaking his face. Mira rose to help him remove it, and for a moment, the walls they'd built felt thin as paper. You should rest, she said softly. I can't, Ronin murmured. If Cade attacks at dawn, we must be ready. And if he doesn't? Then, we keep waiting, Ronin said. His hand brushed her cheek, lingering, and hoping. For what? She whispered. That love will matter more than war, he answered, so quietly she almost missed it. At dawn, a scout returned with startling news. A delegation from a neutral border pack, the Riverstone, had arrived seeking audience with Ronin. Mira stood beside Ronin in the hall as 3 envoys entered, led by a woman with iron-grey hair and calm authority. Alpha Ronin, she greeted. I am Ilara, Beta of Riverstone. We bring an offer. Ronin inclined his head warily. Speak. We've watched this conflict from the border, Ilara began. If Cade's pack wins, they will not stop. With your lands, Riverstone will be next. We propose an alliance, warriors and supplies in exchange for shared trade rights and protection. Ronin's gaze narrowed. And what do you want of me, beyond trade? Ilara's eyes flickered to Mira. Your mate and child change everything. The child could be the key to uniting our packs under peace, not just war. Mira's heart skipped. And if the child isn't born yet, then we fight together to ensure the child lives to fulfill that promise, Ilara said. Marek leaned in, voice low. Alpha, this may be our best chance. Ronin considered for a long moment. Agreed, but betray us, and I will burn Riverstone, myself. Ilara inclined her head, unshaken. May the gods see us both keep faith. The Riverstone envoys departed to prepare their warriors. Alone with Ronin, Mira whispered, Do you truly believe our child could bring peace? Ronin's eyes met hers, troubled but hopeful. I want to, for all our sakes. That night, the fortress lay quiet but tense. Mira found herself standing before the cold hearth, memories pressing heavy on her chest. She remembered her first night in these walls, fear sharpening every heartbeat, telling herself she could seduce and leave untouched. Then, she remembered Ronin's quiet laughter, his gentle hands, things no spy expected. The door creaked. Ronin entered, removing his cloak. His gaze softened at the sight of her. You're awake. I couldn't sleep, she confessed. The past keeps me awake. Ronin approached, stopping just close enough to touch. You think I don't see ghosts too? She looked at him, truly looked. The warrior scarred by battles, the alpha betrayed by someone he loved, yet still standing. Depuis. You regret loving me? She asked, voice raw. I regret nothing that gave me this child, Ronin murmured. Even the pain. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I haven't given it yet, he said, voice low. But I'm trying, and maybe that's all either of us can do. He reached out, brushing her hair back. Their foreheads touched, breath mingling. The past hung between them, sharp and heavy, but so did the bond that had never fully broken. In that moment, for the first time in weeks, Mira dared to hope that the future could be different. Before dawn, drums echoed from the eastern hills, Cade's war drums announcing his army's arrival. The fortress roared to life. Warriors strapped on armor. Archers took positions on the walls. Ronin stood in the courtyard, cloak billowing, barking final commands. Mira watched, heart pounding. Let me stay with you, she pleaded. No, Ronin said firmly. You stay, in the tower with Lysa and the healer. If Cade breaches the gates, Marek will get you out. And you? I fight, Ronin said. His gaze softened. For us. For the child. She stepped closer, voice trembling. Then come back to me. Swear it. I swear, Ronin murmured, pressing his forehead to hers. I will not fall. While you wait. Marek arrived, armor strapped across his chest. Alpha, scouts report Cade's forces will reach us within the hour. Then we take our places, Ronin said, voice calm as steel. Mira's hand lingered on his arm. I love you, she whispered. I know, Ronin said softly, and for the first time in weeks, a faint smile touched his lips. And damn me, Mira, I still love you too. Then he turned, cloak swirling, and strode toward the gate where his warriors waited. The clash came at dawn's edge, when mist still clung to the earth. Cade's wolves surged from the trees, banners whipping in. The wind, Ronin's archers loosed arrows darkening the sky, metal clanged. Men shouted, and the air filled with the iron tang of blood. From the tower, Mira watched through the narrow window, heart twisting with every blow she could not see. Lisa hovered beside her, face pale. Below, Ronin fought at the forefront, blade carving arcs of silver through Cade's warriors. His growls and roars rose above the chaos, a force of will that rallied his pack again and again. Then, through the swirl of battle, Cade himself appeared, tall, dark, eyes alight with hatred, their gazes locked across the field. With a roar, Ronin charged. Steel rang, sparks flying. Cade fought with vicious precision, Ronin with raw power and purpose. Each blow shook the air, each step ground blood into earth. On the tower steps, Marek arrived breathless. "We must move, Mira. If Cade breaks through—" "I'm not leaving," Mira said, voice steady though. Her heart raced. "Not until I see Ronin standing." Below, the clash reached its fever pitch. Cade drove Ronin back, sneering. "She was mine first, Ronin!" "You think the bond can change that?" "She chose me," Ronin growled, voice raw. "And you'll never touch her, or our child." With a roar born of rage and love, Ronin forced Cade back, blade flashing. Then, in a single brutal stroke, he drove his sword through Cade's side. Cade staggered, shock and fury twisting his face. "No, this isn't finished." But it was. Cade fell to the blood-soaked ground. Ronin stood over him, breath ragged, the dawn breaking behind him. From the tower, Mira saw him, whole and alive, and the sob that broke from her chest was half relief, half exhausted prayer. The enemy Alpha lay dead, and for the first time, hope rose like dawn over bloodied earth. Smoke rose from the scorched fields, black banners of grief and relief entwined. The fortress gates stood open, warriors dragging the fallen to rest, tending to the wounded. Victory had come at a terrible cost. Ronin moved among his pack, armor dented and bloodied, eyes shadowed. His blade was sheathed, but his wolf still, proud behind his gaze, restless even in triumph. Mira descended from the tower, her legs trembling with each step. When she saw him, she ran, past fallen stones, past blood-streaked ground, until she reached him. Ronin turned at the last moment. His arms opened, almost instinctively, and she folded into them. For a heartbeat, there was only the sound of her breathing, the warmth of his body against hers. "You're alive," she whispered, voice cracking. "I promised," he murmured into her hair. "And I don't break promises." They pulled back just enough to see each other's faces, dirt-smudged, tear-streaked, but alive. Marek approached, wiping blood from his brow. "Cade's forces scattered the moment he fell," he reported gruffly. "Some fled east. The rest surrendered." "And Riverstone?" Ronin asked. "They held the western flank," Marek replied. "Without them, we might have lost the gates." Ronin nodded. "They kept faith, and so will we." Mira clutched his hand, her voice shaking. "What happens now?" Ronin's gaze swept the battlefield. "Now, we bury our dead, and then we decide how to live in the peace they brought." 2 days later, the courtyard filled with quiet grief. Pyres were built from oak and pine, draped in the banners of the fallen. The scent of smoke and resin lingered in the air, mingling with whispered prayers. Ronin stood at the front, cloak heavy on his shoulders, his expression carved from sorrow and respect. Mira stood beside him, hand resting protectively on her belly. Marek lit the first pyre, flame curling around the timber. "May the fallen hunt under moonlit skies," he intoned, voice low and hoarse. One by one, the pyres caught flame. Faces, reflected in the firelight. Warriors who had lived and bled together, now united in death. Ronin spoke, voice strong despite the heaviness in his chest. "They died protecting not just a fortress, but a future. A future we must now honor by living, not just surviving." Mira's heart clenched at his words. She stepped forward, her voice trembling. "And by teaching those yet to be born that peace must be guarded, not stolen." Heads bowed, the pack absorbing every word. Later, As ashes drifted on the wind, Ronin found Mira beside the empty battlements. "You spoke well," he murmured. It felt like the right thing to say. She answered softly. He hesitated, then took her hand. "I've been thinking about the child, about us. And when the baby is born," he said quietly, "I want them to have both our names, to know where they came from and what we fought to keep." Tears welled in her eyes. "You still want me beside you?" "I do," Ronin murmured. "But trust must be rebuilt, Mira. One promise at a time." She nodded, voice breaking. "Then I promise. No more secrets. Not from you." He leaned forward, pressing his forehead to hers. "And I promise to fight for us, not just against our enemies." Weeks passed. The fortress walls were repaired, the fields cleared of battle's scars. Riverstone warriors departed with promises of trade and alliance, leaving behind an uneasy peace. One quiet evening, Mira and Ronin sat near the hearth, her belly rounded beneath her tunic. Ronin's hand rested there, warm and steady. "Does it hurt?" he asked softly, thumb brushing the curve of her stomach. "Not yet," she murmured, smiling faintly. "Mostly it feels heavy, but worth it." Silence settled, comfortable as an old cloak. Then, suddenly, Mira gasped. Ronin's head snapped up. "What? What is it?" She laughed, breathless. He kicked. "Here, feel." Ronin's hand pressed gently. The kick came again, small but certain, a spark of life beneath his palm. His eyes widened, raw awe breaking through his hardened mask. "I felt it," he whispered. "Yes," Mira murmured, tears bright in her eyes. "He knows you." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Ronin bent, pressing his forehead to her belly, voice hoarse. "Little one, your father swore to protect you, and your mother, and I won't fail." Mira stroked his hair, love and regret mingling like threads. "And I swear," she whispered, "this child will never grow up in fear of war." Ronin looked up, meeting her gaze. "Then we build that world together." In the soft glow of firelight, the bond between them felt more real than prophecy. Not just forged in blood, but chosen, breath by breath. News arrived at dawn. A handful of Cade's scattered loyalists had taken shelter near the border, raiding villages loyal to Ronin's pack. In the council hall, Marek slammed his fist onto the table. "We must crush them now before they gather strength." Ronin's gaze shifted to Mira. "What do you think?" Surprise flickered across Marek's face, but Ronin held her eyes steady. Mira hesitated, then spoke. "If you strike too harshly, the villages might fear your rule instead of Cade's shadow. Show strength, but also mercy. Offer them a choice, surrender, or face the pack's justice." Marek bristled. "And if they refuse? Then we protect our people," Ronin finished calmly. The decision made, Ronin rose. "I'll ride to them myself. They need to see who leads now." "And me?" Mira asked, voice low. "You stay," Ronin said, gaze softening. "But not as a prisoner, as my mate. Speak to the healers, the families who lost kin. Show them we mourn with them." Mira nodded, heart beating faster. "I will." When Ronin departed, Marek lingered by the door. "You're not what I expected," he admitted grudgingly. "But perhaps that's for the best." "Thank you," she murmured. Marek grunted. "Don't thank me yet. The pack will watch what you do next." "I know," Mira whispered, "and I won't fail them." For the first time, she felt not just Ronin's mate, but part of the pack and responsible for what came next. 3 days later, Ronin returned. The loyalists had been given a chance to yield. Most surrendered, laying down arms before the Alpha they'd once called enemy. A few chose death, blades drawn to the end. In the council hall, Ronin addressed his pack. "Those who bent the knee will serve under watch Trust will come slowly, but we cannot rebuild by slaughter alone. Some grumbled, others nodded. Mira stood beside him, silent but unflinching. Later, alone in their chambers, Ronin spoke, voice tired but resolute. Peace isn't won on the battlefield alone. It's built, every day, by choices like this. And trust, Mira added softly. Ronin met her gaze. And trust. He stepped closer, hand brushing her cheek. I've decided something else. When the child is born, you won't stand behind me. You'll stand beside me, as Luna, not prisoner or exile. Tears sprang to her eyes. Even after everything? Because of everything, Ronin said. You broke me once, but you helped build me again, stronger than before. And you, she whispered, voice breaking, taught me love was more than duty or lies. They stood, forehead to forehead, the fire crackling beside them. Beyond the walls, the scars of war remained. But within, something new had taken root. A bond reforged, not in secrecy, but in choice. And together, they waited for the child destined to test everything they'd fought for. Summer turned to early, autumn, and the fortress settled into a tense, watchful calm. Cade's loyalists, those who surrendered, worked under close watch, rebuilding the walls they once meant to breach. At night, Mira sat by the hearth, tracing circles over her rounded belly, feeling the life within twist and turn. Ronin often joined her, silent after days spent keeping the fragile peace from shattering. One evening, Marek entered unannounced, brow furrowed. Alpha, he said, a new problem. Scouts spotted riders near the southern border. Unknown banners. Ronin stood, tension hardening his features. How many? Too many to be a hunting party, Marek replied grimly. Could be mercenaries, or worse, another pack testing your strength. Mira felt the old fear claw at her. If another pack attacks now... They won't, Ronin said, though doubt flickered in his eyes. But we must show we're ready. Marek hesitated. And the prisoners? Some of your men say keeping them alive is weakness. Ronin's jaw tightened. If I spill their blood, I prove our enemies right. That peace is a lie. Watch them, but no executions unless they break faith. Marek nodded slowly. As you say, Alpha. When they were alone, Mira placed her hand over Ronin's. You doubt your choice, she whispered. I question it every day, Ronin admitted, voice low. But killing is easy. Building something better, that's harder. And braver, she murmured. And it's why they follow you, even those who doubt. His gaze softened, the Alpha and the man warring behind his eyes. And you? Do you still follow me? I never stopped, she whispered. Not truly. And though the night beyond the walls seemed darker, beside each other, they found a measure of quiet resolve. At dawn, Mira joined Lisa in the lower village, where repairs continued. Women patched thatched roofs. Children darted among fallen stones. The people watched Mira with guarded eyes, some with hope, others with memory of betrayal. She stopped by a burned home, where a woman knelt over broken beams. Let me help, Mira offered. The woman, lines of grief etched deep around her eyes, hesitated. Why would you? You're the enemy's spy. Mira swallowed, forcing her voice steady. I was, and I won't deny what I did, but I'm also the Alpha's mate, and this child will be yours too, in blood and future. Let me help. Slowly, the woman nodded. Together, they lifted charred wood, sweat mingling with ash. Later, as Mira wiped soot from her face, a small girl approached, hair tangled, eyes wary. Is it true your baby will make the pack stop fighting? Mira knelt to the child's height. I don't know, she answered honestly, but I promise we'll try to make a world where you won't have to see what we did. The child's gaze softened, and she pressed a small wildflower into Mira's palm. Then I hope your baby comes soon. That night, Mira told Ronin what happened. His eyes warmed, pride breaking through exhaustion. They're starting to see, he murmured. Not all, Mira cautioned. No, Ronin agreed, but change begins somewhere, and tonight, it began with you. Peace was fragile. Danger always moved in the dark. One evening, Marek found Ronin in the courtyard, expression grave. A prisoner tried to escape, Marek reported. One of Cade's men. Did he get far? Ronin asked, voice like cold iron. No, Marek said. But before he died, he spoke of someone inside our walls feeding information to a foreign pack. Ronin's blood chilled. Another spy. In their chambers, Ronin told Mira everything. Her face paled. Who would do that now? I don't know, Ronin admitted. But if it's true, it threatens everything we've built. Fear crept into her voice. They might blame me. After what I did, Ronin's gaze was steady, unyielding. No, you are my mate. They'll question, but I won't. Mira's throat tightened. Even now. Especially now, Ronin murmured. If the pack sees me doubt you, they'll tear you apart. And I won't allow it. Marek entered, face drawn. We're questioning the prisoners, but it may not be one of them. Then search quietly, Ronin ordered. If there's a traitor, we find them before they do real harm. Mira swallowed. And if it's someone close to us? Ronin's expression turned to stone. Then mercy ends. For the pack's survival, trust can't blind us. Outside, the wind hissed against the stones, whispering secrets into the night. 2 days later, as dusk bled into night, a shout echoed through the courtyard. Marek dragged a struggling figure before Ronin and Mira. A young scout, face pale with fear. We caught him sneaking toward the southern ridge, Marek growled. He carried these. He tossed a bundle of rolled parchment at Ronin's feet, maps marked with guard rotations, patrol times, and weak points in the walls. Ronin's eyes narrowed. Why? He demanded. Who paid you? The scout trembled, sweat slicking his forehead. It wasn't for gold. They promised if I helped them, they'd spare my sister in Riverstone. Marek's eyes darkened. Riverstone? No! The scout gasped. Not Riverstone. Another pack. One that means to rise in Cade's place. Ronin stepped closer, voice low and lethal. You betrayed your brothers, and for what? Lies. I didn't want anyone to die. The scout sobbed. You thought wrong, Ronin cut him off. Marek, the dungeons. As Marek hauled the boy away, Mira watched Ronin's face, carved from grief and rage. You hate this, she whispered. I do, he admitted, voice raw. But hate doesn't change what must be done. And his sister? Mira asked softly. We'll send word to Riverstone, Ronin murmured. If she's truly there, we'll bring her here. Innocence shouldn't pay for a traitor's mistake. She placed her hand over his. That is why they follow you. Not just because you're strong, but because you still care. For a moment, the Alpha's mask slipped, and the man beneath let himself grieve. Autumn deepened, and the leaves turned gold and crimson around the fortress. With each passing day, Mira felt the child within grow restless, as though it too sensed change coming. One crisp morning, Ronin found Mira in the garden, her hands on her belly. Have you thought of names? He asked. She looked up, surprised. You've barely spoken of it before. I know, Ronin admitted, voice softer than the breeze. But it matters. A name shapes what we hope for them. She smiled faintly. If it's a boy, I thought of Kale. It means keeper of hope. And if it's a girl, Elira, Mira whispered. For strength and grace. Ronin nodded, rolling the names on his tongue. Kyle, Elira, both strong. And you, she asked. What would you choose? Ronin hesitated. My father once spoke of a name he wished for a child he never had, Rowan, for rebirth. Then let's keep them all, Mira decided softly, and choose when the child is born, not for prophecy, but for the child themselves. Ronin's gaze warmed, and for a moment, the war and betrayals felt distant. It won't matter what we name them, he murmured. They'll carry both our legacies. And our love, Mira added. And our love, he echoed, voice barely more than breath. They stood together among the falling leaves, readying their hearts not just for battle, but for a future that was finally, painfully, becoming theirs to shape. Cold winds swept through the fortress, carrying whispers darker than winter's breath. Ronin heard them first from Marek, who entered the council hall with tension written in every scar. Alpha, we have trouble, Marek began, voice low. Some of the pack question your mercy. They call it weakness. They say keeping prisoners alive invites betrayal. Ronin's jaw tightened. Names? Marek hesitated. A few younger warriors, Dren among them. His father fell in the battle, and he blames you for sparing those who once followed Cade. Ronin leaned against the war table, fingers drumming on the worn wood. He mourns. Grief can breed anger, but anger left to fester becomes poison. Mira stepped from the doorway, her belly now heavy with life. Let me speak to them, she offered softly. Marek looked doubtful. They still call you spy, Luna. All the more reason, Mira replied. If they hear doubt in me and still see loyalty, they might understand. Ronin studied her, eyes shadowed but trusting. You'll be careful, he said. I will, she promised. That night, by torchlight, Mira gathered the dissenting voices in the training yard. Faces young, grief-creased, eyes hard with suspicion. I know what you think of me, she began, and I won't ask you to forget what I was, but look at what I am now, Ronin's mate, carrying the child that may unite us. Dren spat on the ground. Words won't bring my father back. No, Mira agreed, voice breaking. And mercy won't erase pain. But if we become what Cade was, if we answer every wrong with death, then we lose more than fathers. We lose ourselves. Silence settled, brittle but thoughtful. Don't forgive me, she finished. Just fight beside me for what comes next. Some still turned away, but not all. And among those who remained, the first cracks of doubt gave way to hope. Snow fell in pale sheets, frosting the courtyard and turning stone to glass. The fortress felt smaller in winter, fires burning bright against the cold. Mira found Ronin, on the battlements, cloak wrapped tight, watching the drifting snow. You should be inside, he murmured, without turning. So should you, she countered, stepping closer. He glanced at her belly, hand instinctively brushing her coat aside to rest on it. It's almost time, he said softly. Yes, she whispered. And you're afraid. I've faced blades and war, Ronin admitted, breath clouding the air. But this, I don't know how to be a father, Mira. You'll learn, she said, voice gentle but firm, not from what you know of power, but from what you know of love. He met her gaze, the alpha stripped away, only the man remaining. And if I fail, then we fail together, Mira said. And try again. That's what family means. Snow. Caught in her hair. He brushed it aside, fingers lingering. When the child is born, he murmured, I want the pack to see us together. Not as alpha and spy, but as parents, as mates. She nodded, tears brightening her eyes. And I want them to see you not just as the Warborn alpha, but as the man who chose peace. They stood, the snow quiet around them, bound by promises neither prophecy nor war could unmake. The next day, Marek brought troubling news. Dren and a few others disappeared from morning drills, he reported, voice grim. We think they mean to free the prisoners, or kill them. Ronin's expression turned to iron. Enough. Gather loyal men. We end this before it begins. Mira caught his arm. Let me speak to Dren first. No, Ronin growled. If he hurts you, he won't, Mira insisted. He doubts you, not me. Let me try. Reluctantly, Ronin agreed, but he and Marek followed close behind. They found Dren in the lower halls, torchlight flickering over drawn blades. At the sight of Mira, he froze, eyes wild. Stay back, he warned. We won't watch traitors walk free while our fathers lie dead. Mira stepped closer. And if you do this? What then? You think spilling more blood will fill the emptiness? Dren's voice cracked. They followed Cade. They shouldn't draw breath. And you followed me once, Mira said quietly, when I was Cade's spy. Should I have been killed too? He faltered, blade trembling. You're right to grieve, she whispered. But grief can blind us. Don't become what took your father from you. For a heartbeat, silence stretched. Then, slowly, Dren lowered his blade. Ronin stepped forward, voice low. You'll face punishment, but not death. Dren dropped the weapon, tears spilling at last. I don't know how to let go of the hate, he rasped. You start by living, Ronin murmured, and remembering the fallen by building something better. Marek gathered the young rebels. As they were led away, Ronin's gaze met Mira's, equal parts gratitude and sorrow. You saved them, he whispered. No, Mira replied softly. They saved themselves. I just reminded them who they were. Snow turned to ice. One night, Mira woke with pain blooming sharp across her belly. Her cry tore Ronin from sleep. He was beside her in an instant, panic in his eyes. It's time, she gasped. He lifted her gently, carrying her to the healer's chamber. Marek appeared, face pale with worry. Should I fetch the midwife? She's already coming, Ronin barked, fear cracking through his command. Hours stretched like days. Outside, the pack gathered in the hall, breathless and waiting. Inside, Mira's breath came ragged, sweat dampening her brow. Breathe, Luna, the midwife urged. Push when the pain rises. Ronin knelt beside Mira, gripping her hand. I'm here, he whispered, voice shaking. It hurts, she gasped. I know, he rasped. But you're stronger than this pain. Stronger than me. She cried out, the pain cresting, then ebbing. Between breaths, she locked eyes with him. Don't. Let me go, she pleaded. Never, Ronin swore, his thumb brushing tears from her cheek. One final cry tore from Mira's throat, and then the room filled with a newborn's wail. The midwife lifted the child, eyes bright. A son, Alpha, strong and loud as his father. Ronin's breath shuddered. He reached for the boy, voice hoarse. Kyle, he whispered, keeper of hope. Mira, pale but smiling, touched the baby's cheek. Kale, she echoed, tears sliding freely. For a moment, the weight of prophecy, betrayal and war fell silent. In its place bloomed something, raw and new, the simple, unbreakable love of family. Dawn painted the fortress in pale gold. Word spread quickly. The Alpha and Luna's child had come. The pack gathered in the courtyard, eager to see the boy destined to unite them. Wrapped in wolf fur, Kyle slept in Mira's arms, his tiny hand curling around her finger. Ronin stood beside her, cloak draped around both of them. Marek stepped forward, voice rough with emotion. Alpha, Luna, the pack stands ready. Ronin's gaze swept his people, warriors, healers, elders, even the children who had watched walls rebuilt and promises tested. This child, Ronin declared, voice carrying across the courtyard, is not born to rule you, but to remind us what we fight for. His name is Kale, keeper of hope, and he carries all our futures in his breath. Mira spoke next, voice steady despite tears glinting in her eyes. He is born of war, but we will raise him in peace and teach him that forgiveness is strength, not weakness. Faces in the crowd softened. Even Dren, bruised from punishment yet free, lowered his gaze in quiet respect. Marek stepped closer, laying a warrior's hand on Cale's tiny head. "May he lead with his heart," he murmured. Ronin turned to Mira, voice low enough only she could hear. "You made this possible," he whispered. "And you gave him a world worth being born into," she answered. They stood together, Alpha and Luna, not as conqueror and spy, but as parents, and in the hush of morning light, Kyle stirred in his mother's arms, as if sensing the legacy he'd inherited. Not just prophecy, but love forged in forgiveness and choice. Winter's breath still lingered over the fortress walls when scouts returned bearing grim tidings. Raiders from beyond the eastern border had burned a trade caravan headed for Riverstone. Ronin summoned his council. Marek, lines of fatigue etched deeper than before, spoke first. "They wear no known banner, Alpha, but their numbers grow." Ronin's jaw tightened. "They test us, looking for weakness." Mira listened, Kyle asleep in a cradle by her side. "If we answer with steel alone, we risk igniting war anew," she warned. Marek's gaze flickered to her. "They already bring war, Luna." "But our strength lies not only in swords," Mira countered. "We have allies now. Riverstone owes us. Send messengers. Warn them to fortify their borders. Together, we stand stronger." Ronin nodded. "Agreed. But we won't leave our people unguarded." "Marek, double patrols on the eastern road." Marek inclined his head. "It will be done." Later, in their chambers, Mira turned to Ronin. "Are you afraid?" she asked softly. "For Kyle?" "Always," he admitted. "For us, less so. Together we've survived worse." She laid a hand over his. "Promise me we won't become like Cade. Fighting so hard to hold power we forget why we sought peace." "I promise," Ronin murmured, his voice raw. "Power isn't worth the cost of losing you, or the boy." Cale stirred in his cradle, a soft cry breaking the moment. Ronin crossed the room, lifting his son, voice gentle despite the weight of war outside. "Easy, little wolf, your father's here." And in that quiet, Mira saw not the Warborn Alpha, but the man she loved. Days later, a raven arrived from Riverstone. Its message bore the seal of Ilara, beta of the allied pack. Ronin broke the seal, brow furrowing as he read aloud. "Threat grows. Scouts slain near our border. Suspect same raiders. Request counsel." Mira looked up, worry clouding her gaze. "They're being hunted too." "And if Riverstone falls," Marek added grimly, "we stand alone." Ronin's decision came swiftly. "I'll ride to Riverstone. Speak to Ilara face to face." "You shouldn't go alone," Marek urged. "I won't," Ronin replied. "You'll ride with me, and 10 of our best." Mira touched Ronin's arm, voice tight. "Take care. Kyle and I will wait." Ronin's gaze softened. "If danger threatens, take Kyle and flee north to the mountain villages. And abandon. You live," he insisted. "For him, if not for me." At dawn, Mira stood at the gates, Kale in her arms. Frost dusted Ronin's cloak. The wind tugged at his dark hair. "Come back to us," she whispered. "I will," Ronin swore, bending, to kiss Kale's brow, then hers. "I won't let the past repeat." As hooves clattered over stone, Mira watched them vanish beyond the walls, fear and hope warring in her chest. In Ronin's absence, she stepped into her role as Luna, overseeing supplies, comforting widows, calming restless warriors. Each word and gesture wove trust where suspicion once lay, and every night, beside the hearth, she whispered stories of his father to Kale, so the boy would know love even before memory could hold it. At Riverstone, snow lay deep around the timber halls. Ronin, Marek, and their guards were welcomed with guarded relief. Elara met them in the council chamber, fatigue and resolve etched into every line of her face. "Alpha Ronin," she greeted. "Your coming gives us hope. Tell me what you—" "No," Ronin urged. Elara unrolled a rough map. "These attacks aren't random. They strike where our guards are weakest. Someone guides them." "A rival pack?" Marek asked. Elara shook her head. "Worse. Mercenaries paid in silver, wearing no banner, led by a man known only as Varric." Ronin frowned. "Varric. I've heard the name. A sellsword who'd burn. A kingdom for coin." Elara nodded. "And he's gathering force. Someone pays him well. Someone who wants both our packs broken." Ronin's gaze darkened. "A shadow war, and our people will pay the price unless we stand together." They spent the night drafting plans. Shared patrols, signal fires on the border. Winter stores moved to fortified keeps. Before dawn, Elara pulled Ronin aside. "You're Luna. She has changed you," she observed quietly. "Yes," Ronin admitted, no shame in his voice. "She taught me mercy and taught the pack to see beyond old wounds." "Then hold fast to her," Elara counseled. "War tests love more than peace ever can." Ronin inclined his head. "And may your people stand beside ours when Varric comes." "They will," Elara promised, "for the sake of Kale and all our children." Ronin returned days later, snow clinging to his cloak. Mira ran to meet him in the courtyard. Kyle bundled in her arms. Relief broke across her face the moment she saw him whole. "Varric," Ronin said, voice tight. "A mercenary lord. Someone in the shadows funds him." "Who?" she asked. "I don't know yet," he admitted. "But we have allies. Riverstone will stand with us." Mira exhaled, some tension leaving her shoulders. "Then together we'll face whatever comes." That night, as Kyle slept between them, Mira spoke softly. "Do you ever regret loving me?" Ronin turned, eyes soft in the firelight. "Never," he whispered. "I regret the pain we caused each other, but not the love." She brushed her fingers over his scarred cheek. "And I regret betraying you, but never loving you. That part was real. From the start, even if I couldn't see it then." Ronin caught her hand, pressing it to his chest. "Then let's finish what we started. For Kale, for the pack. Together," she murmured. He nodded, determination gleaming in his eyes. "We survived Cade. We'll survive Varric too. And when our son is grown, he'll see not just what we fought, but what we built." Mira's heart beat faster at his words. For the first time, the future felt like something they could shape, not something dictated by prophecy or blood. Winter yielded slowly to the first shy warmth of spring. Blossoms opened along the fortress walls, and children ran laughing where soldiers once trained. In the great hall, Ronin addressed his gathered pack and the Riverstone envoys beside them. "We stand not just as wolves of one pack," he declared, voice echoing against stone, "but as kin bound by shared hope." Mira stood beside him, Kale in her arms. The child watched the hall with wide, curious eyes, his small fingers tangled in his mother's hair. Ronin's gaze swept the crowd. "Our enemies thought they could break us by sowing fear. Instead, they forged bonds stronger than steel." Marek, scarred and steadfast, stood behind them, a silent pillar of loyalty. Even Dren, older now, his grief tempered by purpose, watched, with quiet respect. After the council ended, Mira stepped outside, the spring breeze stirring her hair. Ronin joined her, his hand resting lightly on Kyle's back. "He'll never know the world we were born into," Mira murmured. "And that," Ronin said softly, "is the victory worth every scar." She leaned into him, Kyle cooing softly between them. "Do you still fear what the prophecy says?" Ronin shook his head. "Prophecy may speak of power or ruin, but our choices decide which comes true." "And what do we choose?" she asked. "We choose hope," he whispered. Every day. They stood together, Luna and Alpha, mother and father, two hearts, scarred but unbeaten. And in Kale's quiet gaze, they saw not the child of war and betrayal, but the living promise that love, hard-won, imperfect, and fiercely kept, could heal even the deepest wounds.